So good afternoon to everyone who is present here today. We're the group 3 and we will be discussing about the topic which is the digital self, or who am I in the cyber world. When we say digital, it means digital technologies, which are the electronic tools, systems, devices, and resources that generate, store, or process data. And in this lesson, we will be talking about how these digital technologies relate, connect, view, and affect ourselves. For our lesson objectives, at the end of this lesson, you will be able to first identify online identity. Second is to compare or differentiate the real and the online identity. Third is to describe the influence of internet to gender and sexuality. And lastly, discuss the proper way of demonstrating values and attitudes online. These days, more people are becoming active in using the internet. For example, research for students for school or people for their works. Next is pleasure for entertainment and fun for our social media, things like that. Business for expanding our marketing. Communication, which is very significant or important in our daily life. And it can be also be used in other purposes like for editing PowerPoints like this. Indeed, the internet is a great help for everyone. It makes our life easier. But on the other hand, there are negative parts or negative effects of using the internet. People assume different identities while in cyberspace. People act differently when they are online and offline. We have our real identity and online identity. Another example is, I think we are all familiar with catfishing. Catfishing is when someone sets up a fake online profile to trick people who are looking for love, and they usually get money or other valuables out of it. Kunyari, kausap mo is lalaki, yung pala babae. Or kaya kausap mo babae, yun pala lalaki, ang real identity niya.
The number of people who are becoming more active online continues to increase worldwide. More than half of the population worldwide now uses the internet. It has only been 25 years since Tim Berners-Lee made the World Wide Web available to the public. But in that time, the internet has already become an integral part of everyday life for most of the world's population. The Philippines is among one of the countries with the most active internet users. Almost two-thirds of the world's population now has a mobile phone. More than half of the world's web traffic now comes from mobile phones. More than half of all mobile connections around the world are now broadband. More than 1 in 5 of the world's population shopped online in the past 30 days. Media users in the Philippines grew by 12 million or 25%, while the number of mobile social users increased by 13 million or 32%. Those growth figures are still higher compared to the previous year. More than half of the world now uses a smartphone.
Irving Goffman, in his first major work, The Presentation of Self in Everyday Life in 1956, laid out the foundations and concept of self-presentation theory, wherein self-presentation refers to ways that people use to attempt to control how they are perceived by others. In Goffman's words, the ways in which the individual in ordinary work situations presents himself and his activity to others, the ways in which he guides and controls the impression they form of him, and the kind of things he may or may not do while sustaining his performance before them. There, he argues that social interaction is the same as theatrical performances, where social actors are on stage carrying out roles with costumes and in such manner that concurs with the actor's desired idea of self for audiences to see. He believes that when people enter the presence of others, they will attempt to control or guide the impression that others might make of him through verbal intentional methods and by non-verbal unintentional methods, through which the audience can pick up data and assess information about the individual. This scrutiny makes self-presentation helpful in meeting our relational and identity needs, provide others with a more positive and accurate picture of who we are, and remind us of the consequences when caught being deceitful or inauthentic in our presentation of the self. There are two main types of self-presentation. First is pro-social self-presentation. These are behaviors that presents the self as attractive, a role model, or an example. Second is self-serving self-presentation. Behaviors that are aimed at presenting the self as better and positive at the same time negating others or blaming failures to other factors. Engaging in good self-presentation can boost self-esteem and mold one's self-concept. Sometimes we present ourselves in a way in which we seek to gain positive evaluations. These behaviors are referred to as self-enhancement and can help oneself in achieving a lot, improve one's attributes, and enhance one's self-concept.
Impression management. According to Foucault 1998, confession along with contemplation, self-examination, learning, reading and writing, self-critical letters to friends are a part of the technologies of the self, through which we seek to purge and cleanse ourselves. Despite the veil of invisibility, writers on the internet write for an unseen audience, but the number and feedbacks of readers provide the self-validation for the writer and a certain celebrity. We should have filtering system to whatever information we share online, as well as to what information we believe in, which are being shared or posted by others online. We should look at online information carefully, whether they are valid and true before believing and promoting them. In the same way, we should also think well before we post or share anything online in order to prevent conflict, arguments, and cyberbullying, and to preserve our relationship with others.
What is gender? Gender refers to the characteristics of women, men, girls, and boys that are socially constructed. This includes norms, behaviors, and roles associated with being a woman, man, girl, or a boy, as well as relationship with each other. As a social construct, gender varies from society to society and can change over time. Gender is the range of characteristics pertaining to femininity and masculinity, and differentiation between them. Depending on the context, this may include sex-based social structures and gender identity.
Sexuality online. According to Marwick 2013, while the terms sex, gender, and sexuality are often thought of as synonymous, they are actually quite distinct. Sex is the biological state that corresponds to what we might call a man or a woman. Sexuality is an individual expression and understanding of desire. What are the four types of sexuality? The first one, heterosexual. People who are heterosexual are romantically and physically attracted to members of the opposite sex. Heterosexual males are attracted to females, and heterosexual females are attracted to males. The second one, homosexual, a person who is sexually or romantically attracted exclusively to people of their own sex or gender. The third one, bisexual, a person who is sexually or romantically attracted to both men and women, or to more than one sex or gender. Number 4, asexual, a person who experiences no sexual feelings or desires, or who is not sexually attracted to anyone. Sex refers to the different biological and physiological characteristics of males and females, such as reproductive organs, chromosomes, hormones, etc. Gender refers to the socially constructed characteristics of women and men, such as norms, roles, and relationships between groups of women and men. Performing Gender Online, theorist Judith Butler, 1990, conceptualizes gender as a performance. She explained that popular understandings of gender and sexuality came to be through discourse and social processes. She argued that gender was performative in that it is produced through millions of individual actions rather than something that comes naturally to men and women. Performances that adhere to normative understandings of gender and sexuality are allowed, while those that do not are admonished. For example, avoid throwing like a girl. In 1990s, many internet scholars drew from Butler and other queer theories to understand online identity. According to this embodiment hypothesis, internet users are free to actively choose which gender or sexuality they are going to portray with their possibility of creating alternate identities. Recently, social media has been celebrated for facilitating greater cultural participation and creativity. Social media sites like Twitter and YouTube have led to the emergence of free culture, where individuals are empowered to engage in cultural production, using raw materials ranging from homemade videos to mainstream television characters to create new culture, memes, and humor.
Setting boundaries to your online self, smart sharing. The following guidelines will help you share information online in a smart way that will protect yourself and not harm others. Before posting or sharing anything online, consider the following. Is this post story necessary? Is there a real benefit to this post? Is it funny, warm-hearted, teachable, or am I just making noise online without purpose? Have we as family or parent or child resolved this issue? An issue that is still being worked out at home, or one that is either vulnerable or highly emotional, should not be made public. Is it appropriate that it stay within the boundaries of our family values? Will this seem as funny in 5 to 10 or 15 years? Or this post is better suited for sharing with a small group of family members? Or maybe not at all.
Ending our presentation with a quote: technology is a useful servant but a dangerous master. Meaning, technology makes life easier, it helps us save time, and can and will continue to enhance and support us. But it is not a master. Our world does not revolve or does not work around it. That will be all. Thank you so much for listening.